My mother stole my disability money, dressed me in dirty rags, and punished me for accepting new clothes from my teacher. So I got my revenge at 8 years old. I am 24 now. This happened when I was 8, and it is still the pettiest thing I have ever done, and I have never once felt bad about it. My mother's name is Jocelyn. She had 3 kids and she raised 2 of them. Erin and Libby got clothes that fit and shoes without holes. I got whatever came out of the bottom of the closet, 2 sizes too small, stiff at the collar, worn through at the knees. My hair went unbrushed so long it stopped being hair and started being a knot I slept on. Meanwhile, Jocelyn never missed a nail appointment. Her color was always fresh. She kept the salon punch cards in a little zip pouch in her purse like they were important documents. Here is the part that matters. There was disability money coming in every month with my name on it. It was for me. It was supposed to cover my care and my clothes and my needs. She took every cent of it, spent it on herself, and told anyone who asked that money was tight. To Jocelyn, I was not a daughter. I was a direct deposit with legs. And she got away with it for years because nobody asks an 8-year-old how her month is going. Then Miss Nadine noticed. 2nd grade, she was the kind of teacher who stood at the door every morning and actually looked at you. One afternoon, she kept me back after the bell and asked, in a very careful voice, what things were like at home. And I told her, all of it. I was 8 and nobody had ever asked, so I just handed her the whole thing. The next morning, there was a bag on her desk with my name on it. Her daughter Jackie ran a small clothing charity out of a church basement, and Miss Nadine had called her that same night. Inside the bag were new shoes, new pants, shirts with the tags still attached, real brands, the kind I had only seen on my brother. She had also bought a brush and hair products with her own money, and she sat me in a chair by the window and did my hair herself while the room emptied out around us. I looked in the bathroom mirror before I went home, and I did not recognize the kid looking back. She looked cared for. She looked like somebody's daughter. I could not wait to get home, which tells you exactly how little I understood my own mother at that age. I walked in the door and Jocelyn looked at me the way you look at a stain on a couch. She said, "Where did you get those?" I told her my teacher gave them to me. She did not say thank goodness. She did not say how kind. Her face went tight and she said, "Oh, so now your teacher thinks she is better than me because she can buy nice things." That was the whole problem. Right there. She had the money to dress me. She had thousands of dollars a year of money that existed for the specific purpose of dressing me. She simply chose not to. And a stranger being decent to me for one afternoon registered in her head as an attack on her personally. She kept going. She said, "You made me look bad. Now that woman is going to run her mouth about this family." She told me to take the clothes off. She acted like she was going to throw them out, but she never did, because throwing away free things was not her style either. She just needed me to understand that I was not permitted to enjoy them. Then it got worse. She decided that being given clothes was something I had to be punished for. She grounded me, and she told me I was not going on the family trip that everyone else was going on. My brother and sister packed their bags in front of me. They picked out snacks for the drive in front of me, and every time I made a face about it, she reminded me that I did this to myself by embarrassing her. I was 8 years old, and I was being punished for letting an adult treat me like a person. I stood in my room with a kind of anger I did not have any words for yet. I could not leave. I could not tell anybody. I had exactly one skill available to me, and that skill was being petty. So I made a plan I am still a little bit impressed by. It had been hot all week, and I had been sweating through everything I owned. I went into Jocelyn's room and I stripped the cases off the 2 pillows she loved, the good ones she would not let anyone else use, and I rubbed them somewhere no pillowcase should ever go, right between my sweaty legs, until they carried a smell you could not talk your way out of. Then I put them back on her pillows, corners square, smooth as a hotel bed. I was not finished. My stomach had been bad all day, the kind of day where you do not plan trips far from a bathroom. So I took her favorite shirt, the soft one she wore every weekend, and I used it in the bathroom in place of what a person normally uses. Then I folded it into a neat square and set it back exactly where she kept it in the drawer. And then I waited. I sat on the couch with a book I was not reading, and I put on the calmest face of my entire life. It took a few hours. I heard her gag first from the bedroom, that startled kind of gag people do before they even know what they smelled. Then she came out into the hall holding the shirt at arm's length like it was a dead animal, saying, "What is that? Why does this smell like that?" She went back and forth between her bed and the laundry room for the rest of the night trying to find the source. She checked under her bed. She checked the vents. She decided something had died in the wall. She never once looked at her quiet, grounded 8-year-old sitting on the couch with a book. She washed everything she owned twice, gagging the whole time, and I sat there with my face perfectly still and felt the only power I had ever held in that house. It did not fix anything. I want to be clear about that. I still did not go on the trip. I still woke up the next morning in the same clothes, in the same house with the same woman. But for one night, the woman who spent my check on her own nails was on her knees scrubbing my revenge out of her favorite things, and she never found out it was me. That was what an 8-year-old had, and I used every drop of it. I got out at 18. I assumed the check stopped running through her the day I aged out. I believed that for 6 years. And once I was out of the house, she had no idea what to do with me. I cut contact the first year I could stand on my own, and I did not look back. For 6 years, I did not hear a thing from any of them except one text about a barbecue, which was Jocelyn's way of checking whether her old income might wander home. Then my phone rang on a Tuesday, and it was Erin and Libby together on one call. I almost let it go. But Erin's voice cracked on the first word out of his mouth, and I knew this was not a guilt trip. He said, "We found something in the house, and I need you to know we believe you now." I did not say anything. I sat down on my floor because my legs stopped being reliable. I had spent years telling myself that my brother and sister either did not know or did not care, and I had made my peace with both versions. Libby started talking fast the way she does when she is scared. Jocelyn had been calling Erin for months, asking for money, saying she was behind, saying she just needed help getting caught up. So Erin drove over to sit down with her and sort through her bills like the good son he had always been trained to be, and he opened the wrong drawer, or the right one, depending on who you ask. Shoved in the back of her dresser behind a brick of old envelopes were disability payment records going back years. Every single one had my name on it. Erin's voice got in and he said, "There are amounts on here I have never seen in my life. She was getting thousands, and you were wearing shoes with the sole taped on." I already knew, and that I knew when I was 8 and I knew knew when I was 18 and I knew every day in between. But knowing it by yourself and hearing your brother say it out loud are two completely different weights. Then Libby said, I remember the trip, the one she grounded you from. I picked out snacks in front of you and I never even thought about it. I am so sorry. And I nearly hung up. Not because I was angry, because I had built a wall around that whole part of my life and the two of them had shown up with a sledgehammer. I asked why now? Why not 5 years ago? It came out harder than I meant it to. Aaron did not dodge it. He said, because 5 years ago we still believed her. She told us you were the difficult one, that you made things up for attention, and we took it because it was easier than the truth. I could not even be angry at that. They were kids too. Jocelyn was very good at what she did. Then Aaron said, there is more. She has been telling people you stole from her before you left. She filed. She is taking you to small claims for money she says you owe her. I sat there on my floor with the phone against my ear and I could not make a single sound. The woman who took my disability money, who dressed me out of a rag pile, who grounded me for accepting a bag of clothes from a teacher, was now filing paperwork in a courthouse claiming that I robbed her. And something underneath the shock started to go very quiet and very steady, because Jocelyn had spent her entire life getting away with things for one reason. Nobody ever looked at the paper, and now she was the one carrying paper into a building full of people whose whole job is to look at it. I called Miss Nadine that same night. She had given me her number when I was old enough to have a phone, and every few months a text would come through, nothing heavy. Just how are you doing, honey? Just thinking of you today. She never asked about Jocelyn. She just made sure I knew somebody remembered me. She picked up on the second ring and said, I have been waiting a long time for this call, sweetheart, and I had to put my hand over my mouth for a second. I told her everything. The records in the drawer, the amounts, the lawsuit, and she did not pause, not even for a breath. She said, I documented everything. What condition you came to school in, what I gave you and when, every conversation we had. I kept copies because I knew a woman like that would come back around and try to rewrite it. Then she told me something I had never known. When I was 8, right after she gave me that bag, she called Child Protective Services. She reported exactly what she was seeing, a child arriving to school filthy and in clothes that did not fit while there was money in that household. And someone actually came out. But Jocelyn was smart. Jocelyn was always smart about herself. She cleaned me up for the visit. She put me in something decent, brushed my hair, sat me on the couch, smiled, said all the correct sentences. The case was closed in one visit. And after the social worker's car pulled out of the driveway, she punished me for it. I do not remember which punishment it was. There were too many, and they all run together now. But Miss Nadine remembered, because she watched me come back to school the following week quieter and worse off than before, and she knew exactly what had happened. Her voice got harder then. She said, your mother called the school and said she would have me fired for overstepping. I was told to leave it alone. I never threw away a single thing I wrote down. 16 years. That woman held on to 16 years of notes about a kid who was not hers. For a day she was not even sure would come. I asked about Jackie and the charity. Miss Nadine said yes immediately. Charities have to document intake. Which child received what, on what date, and the reason they were flagged as in need. It was all written down, and it had been sitting in a filing box the entire time, which meant there was paper showing that I, the child of a woman collecting disability funds for my care, had been formally identified by a charity as a kid with nothing to wear. Those two facts cannot exist in the same room. One of them has to be a lie, and both of them were now documented. Then I called Aaron back, and he said the thing that turned my stomach inside out. He had gone through the rest of the stack. She never stopped filing. She kept collecting in my name for 2 full years after I moved out of that house. 2 years. I was not a minor. I was not under her roof. I was not receiving $1 or one meal or one phone call from her. And she was still cashing checks with my name on them while I ate rice, standing at my counter in a studio apartment with a mattress on the floor. That is not a selfish parent anymore. That is fraud. She used my name and my identity to pull money out of a system for 2 years while I was out in the world thinking I had finally gotten free of her. And she was the one taking me to court. She was the one asking a judge to please look closely at documents with my name printed across the top. She mailed me the court date herself. It got ugly before the date. Jocelyn called me directly, first time in 6 years, in a voice like syrup. She said, I do not want to do this in front of strangers. Just give me what you owe and we can put it away. I said no. Every drop of sweetness drained out of her at once, and she said, you always were the ungrateful one. Fine, I will see you there. I hung up with my hands shaking, and I hated that her voice still did that to me. The next day, she showed up at Aaron's apartment and stood in his doorway and told him that if he sided with me, he was dead to her. His exact words on the phone were, those were her words, dead to her. He was talking too fast and stopping in the middle of sentences. Aaron had never gone against her once in his entire life. Part of me wanted to beg him. Instead, I said, you do not have to do this. I can handle it alone. And I meant it, because handling things alone was the one skill I had never lost. He went quiet for so long, I thought the call had dropped. Then he said, no, I watched her do this to you our whole childhood, and I said nothing. I am showing up. His voice broke on it. I wanted to believe him. I had also learned that what people promise before the hard moment and what they do inside it are not always the same. Then Libby texted that Jocelyn had been working the phones. Aunts, cousins, anyone who would pick up. In her version, I was harassing her. I had poisoned Aaron and Libby against her. I was tearing the family apart for attention because I had always been the dramatic one. Libby wrote, our aunt called and told me I should be ashamed of myself. Same play she ran when I was 8. Get to everyone first so that by the time the truth arrives it sounds like a rebuttal. And then Miss Nadine called me and said the thing that made me go cold all the way through. She said, your mother called me yesterday. She told me that if I show up, she will tell the court I was inappropriate with students, and that is why I gave you clothes. That was who Jocelyn was. Not just pushback. Burn the whole person down. Take a woman who spent 30 years helping children and turn her into something unspeakable, on the record, in front of a judge, rather than be looked at herself. Miss Nadine was not rattled at all. She said, I have been handling bullies longer than she has been one. I will be there. The night before, I sat with the folder open on my table, and I almost talked myself out of all of it. That old voice was very loud in that apartment. You are the problem. You make everything harder for everyone. If you had kept your mouth shut, none of this would be happening. Then I scrolled my photos looking for nothing in particular, and I found the picture. Me at 8, standing by the classroom window in the clothes from that bag, hair done, shoes clean, smiling the real kind of smile. The only photo from my whole childhood where I look like somebody's kid instead of somebody's oversight. I closed the folder and set my alarm. Aaron was already in the courthouse lot when I got there, pacing. Libby was on the bench by the door. Miss Nadine was standing at the entrance holding a binder that had to weigh 10 pounds. Jocelyn came through the front doors in an outfit that cost more than anything she ever put on my back in 18 years. Hair done, nails fresh. She saw Aaron and she stopped mid-step in the middle of the hallway and her face went completely blank, like somebody reached in and unplugged her. Then she saw Libby. Then she saw Miss Nadine with that binder under her arm, and I was close enough to read her lips when she said, "To nobody. What is this?" She recovered fast. She always recovered fast. She walked Aaron around the corner by the arm, gripping it, and I watched her cycle through every face in her collection, soft, then sharp, then soft again. Aaron pulled his arm free, but he did not come back to me either. He stood in that hallway alone, staring at the floor with his hands in his pockets, looking exactly like the boy I grew up with. My chest went so tight I could not get a full breath, because without Aaron, I still had records, and I still had a teacher, but I did not have the one person who had been inside that house, who opened that drawer, who could look a judge in the face and say, "I watched it happen." Without him, it was a daughter's word against a mother's, and I had already lived through how that goes. Our case got called. Miss Nadine sat in the first row behind me with the binder squared on her knees like she planned to sit there all day if that was what it took. Libby was 3 rows back, pale enough that I thought she might go down. Jocelyn came in smooth and unbothered, like she did this every week. I checked the doorway one more time. Aaron's seat was empty. Jocelyn was good. She told the judge I had left home with belongings that were not mine, that she raised me for 18 years, fed me, clothed me, gave me everything she had, and that I had turned her other children against her. Her voice cracked in exactly the correct places. Not too much, not too little. She even had a tissue folded in her hand before she started. She had rehearsed it the same way she rehearsed the social worker's visit. Then the judge turned to me and I got maybe 3 words out before she cut in and said, "Your Honor, my daughter has mental health issues. She has always had a disability. I cared for her my entire life and this is how she repays me." The floor went sideways. She said the word disability in a courtroom, like it was a reason not to listen to me. The same disability she had been paid for. She used it to get the checks and then used it to make me sound unreliable. In the same building, in the same hour. The judge told her she would have her turn, but the word was already out in the air. I did not turn around to check the door again. I had already checked it once, and I was not going to give her the satisfaction of watching me hope, and that is when the door opened behind me. Aaron walked up the middle of the room, past Libby, past Miss Nadine, past me, and stopped where the judge could see him and said, "I have something to say about my mother, and I have documents." Every bit of color left Jocelyn's face. The tissue fell out of her hand onto the table. He laid the payment records down. He said, "These are payments made in my sister's name for her care. The entire time this money was coming in, she was wearing clothes with holes in them. I got new shoes every school year. She wore the same pair until they came apart." Jocelyn shot up talking over him about bills he never saw, and the judge told her to sit down. Then it was mine. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the first page. I laid out Miss Nadine's notes and read one entry out loud, dated, in her handwriting. "Student arrived in a shirt 3 sizes too small with visible staining. Hair matted. Student stated mother told her she does not deserve new things." The room got quiet enough that I could hear the vents. Jocelyn stared at the table like she was trying to burn through it. Miss Nadine stood up and told the judge she was my 2nd grade teacher, that she reported her concerns to Child Protective Services, that a caseworker came out and the case was closed after Jocelyn cleaned me up for one afternoon. Then she opened the binder and produced Jackie's intake sheet. My name on the recipient list, the reason for the flag, and on that same page, the note that the household was receiving government disability support at the time of the donation. She did not have to explain the arithmetic. Everyone in the room did it at the same time. Then I said the last part. According to her own records, she did not stop when I turned 18 and she did not stop when I moved out. She kept filing in my name for 2 more years. I slid the pages across and said, "She is not here because I owe her money. She is here because the money stopped and she wants it back. I was never her daughter. I was her income." Jocelyn's mouth opened. Nothing came out of it. For the first time in my life, that woman had no line ready. The judge dismissed her claim in full. He said there was no basis for the filing. Then he said the documentation raised serious concerns regarding benefit fraud and misuse, and that he was referring the matter for review by the appropriate authorities, which meant people with far more power than a small claims judge were about to start reading the same pages I had just handed over. She stood up and her legs were not steady. She looked at Aaron and Aaron looked back and did not drop his eyes. She looked at Libby and Libby was crying and did not look away either. Then she looked at me and I let her, and I did not feel small. She walked out ahead of us without a word. Through the window in the hallway, I watched her cross the parking lot. She sat in her car with her hands folded in her lap, nails fresh, engine off.